Kang-Min stood in the doorway of Victoria's small bedroom in the staff quarters of his Newport Beach estate, his heart pounding in a way that no business negotiation or family confrontation had ever made it pound. The moonlight cut across her peaceful face as she slept, one hand tucked under her cheek, her braids spread across the pillow. He had no business being here at midnight. He had no business feeling what he felt. But after 6 months of fighting it, denying it, and trying to logic his way out of it, he finally surrendered. He spoke quietly to her sleeping form, his voice barely above a whisper. "Victoria, I do not know if you can hear me right now, but I need to say this out loud or I will lose my mind." He leaned against the doorframe, his expensive suit wrinkled from a 16-hour workday. "6 months ago, you did something that changed everything for me. You probably do not even remember it. My sister Jai-Woo had one of her panic attacks in the garden. You were cleaning the pool area and you heard her crying. You did not run to get help or stand there awkwardly. You just sat with her. You held her hand and told her to breathe with you. You hummed some song I did not recognize until she calmed down." His throat tightened with emotion he rarely allowed himself to feel. "That was the first time in 5 years anyone outside our family got close to her during an episode. The first time she let someone touch her. And when I asked you about it later, you just shrugged and said it seemed like she needed someone, like it was the most natural thing in the world." He ran a hand through his dark hair, frustration and longing mixing in his chest. "I have spent 15 years building walls, Victoria. I learned early that showing weakness gets you destroyed. That caring too much makes you a target. I rebuilt my family's entire reputation from scandal and shame into something respected, something feared. I did that by being cold when I needed to be, by making hard decisions, by never letting anyone see me as anything other than completely in control." He took a step into her small room, careful not to wake her. "Then you showed up and ruined everything." A sad smile crossed his face. "I started finding excuses to keep you working late. I would leave documents in my study just so you would come organize them, and I could hear you humming while you worked. I started taking my coffee in the morning room instead of my office, because that is where you set up breakfast. My head of staff probably thinks I have lost my mind with all the scheduled changes I have requested to make sure you are around." His hands trembled slightly as he continued his confession to her unconscious form. "I am terrified, Victoria. Men like me do not get to have this. We do not get the simple happiness of falling for someone genuine and kind. We get strategic marriages and alliances. We get people who want our money or our connections or our power. But you," he shook his head in wonder. "You looked annoyed when I left my coffee cup on the table instead of the coaster. You rolled your eyes when I tracked mud through the hallway after a garden inspection. You treat me like I am, just some guy who makes messes you have to clean up, and I have never felt more seen in my entire life." He was about to turn and leave, to let her sleep and pretend this midnight confession never happened, when her voice cut through the darkness. "How long were you going to keep talking before you noticed I was awake?" Kang-Min froze, his heart stopping completely. Victoria's eyes were open now, reflecting the moonlight, looking directly at him. She sat up slowly, pulling her blanket around her shoulders. For the first time in 15 years, Kang-Min had absolutely no idea what to say. "How much did you hear?" "All of it." Victoria's voice was steady, but he could see her hands shaking slightly as she gripped the blanket. "I woke up when you said my name. I thought I was dreaming at first, but then I realized you were actually standing in my doorway confessing feelings to what you thought was my sleeping body." The silence stretched between them, heavy with everything unspoken for 6 months. "I should go," Kang-Min said finally, backing toward the door. "I should not have come here. This was inappropriate and I apologize." Kang-Min, wait. Victoria's voice stopped him. "I need time to process this. Can we talk tomorrow, when it is not midnight and you are not confessing to someone you thought was unconscious?" He nodded, unable to trust his voice, and left her room feeling like his entire world had just shifted on its axis. What would you do if you woke up to a confession like this? Let me know in the comment section. Victoria barely slept the rest of the night. She kept replaying Kang-Min's words in her head, trying to reconcile the cold, controlled man she cleaned for every day with the vulnerable person who stood in her doorway, confessing he orchestrated reasons to be near her. By the time her alarm went off at 6 in the morning, she had already been awake for 2 hours, staring at her ceiling and trying to figure out what she felt. She changed her cleaning schedule without telling anyone, choosing to work in the west wing of the mansion during times she knew Kang-Min would be in his east wing office. She deep-cleaned guest rooms that had not been used in months. She organized storage closets that were already organized, anything to avoid the inevitable conversation. But at 10 in the morning, Mrs. Chen, the head of staff, found her reorganizing linens and delivered news that made avoidance impossible. Victoria, there has been a schedule change. Mr. Kang-Min has important business meetings in San Francisco this week, and he has requested you accompany him as his personal attendant. Victoria nearly dropped the stack of towels she was holding. I am sorry, what? Why would he need me in San Francisco? He has assistants for that. Mrs. Chen gave her a knowing look that made Victoria's stomach flip. I do not question Mr. Kang-Min's requests. The private jet leaves at 2 this afternoon. Pack for 5 days. Professional attire only. A clothing allowance has been transferred to your account for anything you need to purchase. 3 hours later, Victoria found herself sitting in a leather seat on a private jet, trying not to look as out of place as she felt. She had bought 2 simple professional dresses and a pair of shoes that cost more than she usually spent on clothes in 6 months. Kang-Min sat across from her in the small cabin, his attention fixed on his laptop, his expression unreadable. The silence was suffocating. They had been in the air for 20 minutes when turbulence hit, the plane dropping suddenly before stabilizing. Victoria's hand shot out instinctively, grabbing onto the nearest solid thing, which happened to be Kang-Min's hand resting on the armrest between them. The plane steadied, but neither of them pulled away. Kang-Min closed his laptop slowly, his eyes moving from their joined hands to her face. I owe you an explanation for last night. You really do, Victoria said, her voice steadier than she felt. I meant everything I said, all of it, but I also recognize that my position puts you in an impossible situation. You work for me. There is a power imbalance that makes this complicated. He still had not pulled his hand away from hers. I brought you on this trip because we need to talk without interruptions and without the entire household staff noticing. Also because I am selfish and I wanted more time before you potentially resign and move back to Atlanta. Victoria blinked. How did you know I was thinking about Atlanta? Because you are smart enough to recognize that staying would be complicated. He finally released her hand, and she felt the loss of warmth immediately. Tell me about your family. You mentioned a mother and a brother once, but you never talk about them. The change of subject caught her off guard, but maybe that was intentional. Maybe he was giving them both a break from the intensity. So she told him. About her mother in Atlanta who was recovering from a stroke, about the medical bills that insurance did not cover. About her younger brother Tyler who was a sophomore at Morehouse College, brilliant and determined, whose tuition she helped pay because their mother's disability checks only stretched so far. I took this job because it paid 3 times what I was making in Atlanta and provided housing, she explained. I send most of my paycheck home every month. The plan was always to work here for 3 years, save aggressively, and then move back home once Tyler graduated and Mom was more stable. Kang-Min listened in a way that felt different from polite attention. He asked follow-up questions. He remembered details. When she mentioned her mother's love for gardening before the stroke. He made a note in his phone, without explaining why. They talked for the rest of the flight, the conversation flowing easier than Victoria expected. By the time they landed at the private airstrip in San Francisco, something between them had shifted into something less awkward, though no less complicated. Then they stepped off the plane, and Victoria's life changed again. Photographers swarmed the airstrip, cameras flashing, questions being shouted in English and Korean. Kang-Min's security team moved quickly to create a barrier, but not before dozens of photos were taken of Kang-Min and Victoria descending the plane steps together. In the car ride to the hotel, Kang-Min's phone exploded with calls and messages. His jaw tightened as he scrolled through what Victoria assumed were news articles. "I am sorry," he said quietly. "Someone from my organization leaked that I brought a guest on this trip. By tonight, your face will be all over Korean tabloids and social media." Victoria felt her stomach drop. "What does that mean for me?" "It means I need to assign you personal security. It means people will say terrible things online about who you are and why you are with me. It means this just became very real and very public, and I am sorry I dragged you into it." He was not wrong. By nightfall, Victoria's face was everywhere. The headlines ranged from curious to cruel. "Mystery woman travels with Korean business heir." "Kang Min's secret girlfriend revealed." "Who is the woman that captured the untouchable bachelor?" And worse ones that Victoria tried not to read but could not look away from, the ones speculating about her motives, calling her a gold digger, questioning what a maid could possibly offer someone like him. She sat in her hotel room, scrolling through translated comments until Kang Min knocked on her door at 10 that night. "Stop reading them," he said gently, taking her phone from her hands. "None of those people know you. None of their opinions matter." "They matter to your reputation," Victoria countered. "They matter to your business. You matter more." The simplicity of that statement, delivered with such certainty, made Victoria's breath catch. This was not a midnight confession to a sleeping audience anymore. This was real, complicated, and happening whether she was ready or not. Victoria woke up the next morning to 17 missed calls from her mother and 43 text messages from friends back in Atlanta who had seen her face on social media. She was in the middle of calling her mother back when someone knocked firmly on her hotel room door. She opened it to find an elegant Korean woman in her late 50s, dressed in a cream designer suit, her expression cold and assessing. Two men in dark suits flanked her. "You must be Victoria," the woman said in perfect English with just a trace of an accent. "I am Han-seo, Kang Min's mother. We need to talk, now." Victoria's heart hammered, but she stepped aside to let her in. Han-seo dismissed her security to wait in the hallway and closed the door with a quiet click that somehow felt ominous. "I will be direct because I do not believe in wasting time," Han-seo said, pulling a folder from her designer handbag and placing it on the hotel room desk. "These are printouts of what is being said about you and my son across Korean media and social platforms. Some articles are speculating about your background. Some are cruel. Some are already creating narratives that could damage my family's reputation." Victoria glanced at the folder but did not open it. "I did not ask for any of this." "I believe you." Han-seo's expression softened slightly. "Which is why I am here to offer you a clean exit. $200,000, a confidentiality agreement, and you disappear from my son's life. You go back to Atlanta, pay your mother's medical bills, finish your brother's college tuition, and start fresh. No one would blame you." The offer hung in the air like a test. Victoria felt anger rising in her chest. "You are trying to pay me to leave your son." "I am trying to protect him from making the same mistakes his father made." Han-seo's voice sharpened. "My husband had an affair with an inappropriate woman 20 years ago. The scandal nearly destroyed our families standing in both Korean and American business communities. I spent 2 decades rebuilding our reputation. I will not watch my son throw it away for someone he barely knows." "That is insulting on multiple levels," Victoria said, her voice steady despite her shaking hands. "I am not having an affair with your son, and you do not get to decide who is appropriate for him. I decide what protects this family." The door opened suddenly, and Kang Min walked in, his expression darkening instantly when he saw his mother. "What are you doing here?" "Cleaning up your mess," Han-seo replied coolly. "You bring a maid on your business trip and act surprised when it creates a scandal." "Do not call her that," Kang Min said, his voice dropping to a dangerous quiet. "Do not reduce her to her job title like it defines her worth." "Then what should I call her? Your girlfriend? Are you dadding her, Kang Min? Or are you just keeping her around for entertainment while you figure out what you actually want?" The cruelty of the question made Victoria flinch, but what happened next shocked her more. "I love her," Kang Min said simply, looking at his mother but saying the words that made Victoria's heart stop. "I have loved her for months, and I am done hiding it or apologizing for it." Hansio's composure cracked. "You are throwing away everything for someone you have known less than a year." "I am choosing happiness for the first time in my life," Kangmin shot back. "Do you know what I have sacrificed for this family? I was 23 years old when father's scandal broke. 23. I gave up my entire 20s rebuilding what he destroyed. I took over businesses I did not want to run. I made alliances with families I did not like. I played the role of the perfect heir while you mourned your marriage and Jaiwoo fell apart from trauma none of us talked about. I did everything you asked. Everything. And the one time I choose something for myself, you show up trying to bribe her to leave. The family's largest acquisition is happening in 2 weeks in Boston," Hansio said, her voice trembling slightly. "Every major investor will be there. If you show up with her, if you make this relationship public in that setting, I will personally ensure the deal falls apart. Our family will lose everything we worked for. Is she worth that?" The ultimatum hung in the air like poison. Kangmin looked at Victoria, and she saw the conflict tearing him apart. Then he looked back at his mother. "Get out. Kangmin. Get out of this room, now." Hansio left, but her final words were delivered like a knife. "You have 2 weeks to decide what matters more, her or your family legacy. Choose wisely." After she left, the silence in the room was deafening. Victoria sat down on the edge of the bed, her mind racing. "I am going to resign and go back to Atlanta," she said quietly. "No. Your mother is right about one thing. You barely know me. We have never even been on a date, Kangmin. You confessed your feelings to me while I was sleeping. This is moving too fast and there is too much at stake." Kangmin knelt in front of her so they were eye level. "I know you take your coffee with cream and 2 sugars. I know you hum old Anita Baker songs when you are concentrating. I know you send voice messages to your brother every Sunday morning without fail. I know you rearrange the books in my study by color because you think it looks better even though I organize them by subject. I know you love thunderstorms and hate surprises, and you are terrified of failing the people you love. I know you better than I have ever known anyone, and I am not ready to lose you because my mother is scared." "What about Boston?" Victoria whispered. "What about the deal?" "I do not know yet," he admitted, "but I am asking you not to decide anything right now. Give me a chance to figure this out, please." Victoria looked into his eyes and saw the same vulnerability from his midnight confession. Against her better judgment, she nodded. 72 hours, she said. "You have 72 hours to figure out what we are doing because I cannot exist in this limbo forever." He agreed, and then he did something unexpected. He asked if he could take her to dinner that night. A real date. Just them, away from family drama and business pressure. She said yes, and for a few hours in a small Italian restaurant in North Beach, they pretended they were just 2 people falling for each other, instead of 2 people caught in a storm neither of them knew how to navigate. The next morning, instead of business meetings, Kangmin told Victoria they were taking a drive. He was secretive about the destination, only saying it was important and about an hour south of San Francisco. They drove through wealthy neighborhoods until they reached Atherton, one of the richest towns in America, where estates hid behind tall gates and old trees. Kangmin pulled up to a beautiful property that looked more like a resort than a care facility. A discreet sign read, "Serenity Heights Private Wellness Center." "Where are we?" Victoria asked. "Somewhere I should have brought you months ago," Kangmin replied, his expression nervous in a way she had never seen. "Someone I want you to meet properly." They walked through beautifully landscaped grounds to a private cottage in the back of the property. Kangmin knocked gently before using a key to open the door. Inside, a young woman in her mid-20s sat by a window, painting. She had the same elegant features as Kangmin, the same dark eyes. When she saw him, her face lit up. "Opa," Jaiwoo set down her paintbrush and rushed to hug her brother. Then she saw Victoria and her expression transformed into pure joy. "Victoria, you came to visit me." Victoria was stunned when Jaiwoo hugged her tightly. Like they were old friends instead of near strangers who had shared one brief moment months ago. Over the next hour, Kang Min explained what Victoria had not known. Jai-woo lived here full-time, receiving treatment for severe social anxiety and panic disorders that developed after a traumatic incident 5 years ago. She could not handle crowds, strangers, or sudden changes without triggering debilitating panic attacks that sometimes lasted hours. The day you helped her in the garden was the first time in 5 years she let someone outside our immediate family touch her during an episode, Kang Min explained, while Jai-woo showed Victoria her paintings in the other room. Her therapists called it a breakthrough. Since then, she asks about you in every phone call. You made an impression on her that I did not think was possible anymore. Victoria watched through the doorway as Jai-woo excitedly explained the meaning behind each painting, her shyness completely absent. "Why did you not tell me about her?" Victoria asked softly. "Because I protect her privacy fiercely. Our parents wanted to keep her condition quiet to avoid media speculation and public scrutiny. For years I agreed because I thought I was protecting her. But lately, I have wondered if we just taught her that her struggles were something to hide." He ran a hand through his hair. "She wanted to meet you again. When I told her I was bringing you to San Francisco, she asked if you could visit. I have never seen her request to see anyone before." Jai-woo called them both over to look at a painting of a garden, with a figure sitting beside another figure under moonlight. "This is you and me, Victoria," Jai-woo explained. "From the night you helped me, I paint important memories so I do not forget how they made me feel. You made me feel safe. Not many people make me feel safe." Victoria felt tears prick her eyes. She knelt down beside Jai-woo's chair. "You make me feel honored that I could be there for you. Thank you for sharing your beautiful art with me." They spent 2 more hours at the facility. Jai-woo taught Victoria about her painting techniques. Kang Min visibly relaxed in a way Victoria had never witnessed, the tension he always carried in his shoulders completely gone as he sat with his sister. Before they left, Jai-woo grabbed both of Victoria's hands. "Are you going to stay with my brother? Please say yes. He smiles when he talks about you. He never smiles." The innocent hope in her question made Victoria's heart ache. "I am trying to figure that out, Jai-woo." "Try hard, okay? He deserves someone who makes him happy. You make him happy." In the car ride back to San Francisco, Victoria and Kang Min sat in comfortable silence until she finally spoke. "Your whole life is about protecting people, is not it? Your mother from more scandal, Jai-woo from the world, your family legacy from falling apart. When do you get to think about what you need?" "That is what I am trying to do with you," he said quietly. "For the first time, I am being selfish, and it terrifies me because I do not know how to do this without everything falling apart." His phone rang before she could respond. The conversation was in rapid Korean, but Victoria watched his expression change from calm to furious in seconds. When he hung up, his knuckles were white from gripping the phone. "I have to get back to Newport Beach immediately. Someone from inside my organization leaked private financial documents to a rival group. If I do not handle this in the next 24 hours, everything I built could collapse." He looked at Victoria, with an expression caught between desperation and determination. "I need you to trust me for 72 hours. I know I am asking for a lot. I know this is chaos and you did not sign up for any of it. But please, just trust me to handle this, and then we can figure out what comes next. Together." Victoria thought about Jai-woo's paintings, about Kang Min's midnight confession, about the way he listened when she talked about her family, about how he knelt in front of her when his mother tried to pay her off, declaring his love like it was the simplest truth in the world. "Okay," she said. 72 hours, I trust you." The relief on his face was so profound, it almost broke her heart. They flew back to Newport Beach that afternoon, neither of them knowing that the next 72 hours would test that trust in ways neither of them anticipated. The Newport Beach estate felt different when they returned. The staff moved quietly, tension radiating through the hallways. Kang Min disappeared into his office immediately, surrounded by lawyers and his executive team. Victoria was left in a strange limbo, no longer just a maid but not quite anything else, unsure where she fit in the chaos. She retreated to her room in the staff quarters, trying to give him space to handle whatever crisis had erupted. Around 8 that evening, she heard raised voices coming from the main house. Curiosity and concern got the better of her. She moved quietly through the hallways until she could hear the argument clearly. Kang Min's voice was ice cold. "You have been embezzling from internal accounts for 8 months, Dong Hyeon. Did you really think our financial auditors would not catch it eventually?" "I took what I was owed," another man's voice shot back, anger dripping from every word. "I have worked beside you for 12 years, doing the dirty work while you played the respectable heir. And what do I get? A middle management title and a pat on the back while you live like royalty. You got a generous salary and my trust, which you clearly never valued." "Your trust," Dong Hyeon laughed bitterly. "You do not trust anyone, Kang Min. You control everyone. You manipulate situations so you always come out on top. That is not leadership, that is dictatorship." "Then why stay? Why not leave instead of stealing from the family and leaking confidential documents to our competitors?" "Because I wanted to watch you fall. I wanted to be there when your perfect reputation crumbled and everyone saw you for what you really are. A fraud who inherited everything and pretends he earned it." Victoria heard something slam, maybe a hand on a desk. "I rebuilt this family's reputation from nothing," Kang Min said, his voice dangerous. "After Father's scandal, we were a joke in both Korean and American business circles. I was 23 years old and I turned it around through strategic decisions, hard work, and sacrifice. You benefited from that rebuilding just like everyone else in this organization. And now you are throwing it all away for a maid," Dong Hyeon spat. "You have gotten soft, cousin, distracted. That is why I knew this was the perfect time to make my move. You are not fit to lead anymore. Get out. You have 24 hours to leave the country before I press criminal charges. After that, I will make sure you never work in any reputable business again. You think you have won, but this is just the beginning. I am not the only one who thinks you have lost your edge. Others will come for you, and when they do, your little girlfriend will not be there to save you." Footsteps approached the door and Victoria barely had time to step back before Dong Hyeon stormed out, his face twisted with rage. He brushed past her without acknowledgement, but the threat in his words hung in the air. She found Kang Min still in his office, standing by the window overlooking the ocean, his shoulders tense. "How much did you hear?" he asked without turning around. "Enough to know that someone you trusted betrayed you. Enough to know he blames me for it. He is looking for excuses. The embezzlement started months before you and I ever spoke beyond professional pleasantries." Kang Min finally turned to face her. "But he is right about one thing. I am distracted. I am making decisions based on what I want instead of what is strategic. That makes me vulnerable in a world that punishes vulnerability." "So what are you saying?" He crossed the room until he stood directly in front of her. "I am saying this is your chance to walk away, to go back to Atlanta where life is simpler and you are not caught in the crossfire of family power struggles and corporate warfare. I would not blame you, Victoria. I would understand completely." Victoria thought about the easy path, the safe path, going home to her mother and brother, finding a normal job, dating someone without complications. Then she thought about Jaiwoo asking her to stay, about Kang Min's midnight confession, about how he made her feel seen in ways no one else ever had. "I am not leaving," she said firmly, "but I have one condition." "Anything. Stop trying to protect me by pushing me away. Stop making decisions about what is best for me without asking what I actually want. If we are going to do this, whatever this is, then we do it as partners. You let me in completely. No more secrets. No more shouldering everything alone." Something in Kang Min's expression cracked open. "I do not know how to do that." "Then learn, because I am not some delicate thing that needs to be sheltered. I grew up watching my mother recover from a stroke while working 2 jobs to keep our family afloat. I put myself through community college while helping raise my brother. I moved across the country alone to take a job where I did not know anyone. I am stronger than you think. So stop protecting me and start trusting me." For a long moment, he just looked at her. Then he kissed her, and it was nothing like the careful, restrained person she had worked for over the past 6 months. It was desperate and honest and full of the fear he had been hiding behind his controlled exterior. When they finally broke apart, Victoria made a decision. The Boston acquisition meeting your mother mentioned. We are going together. We are walking in there as a united front, and we are making this relationship public on our terms before someone else controls the narrative. That is incredibly risky, Kang Min said. It could backfire spectacularly. Or it could take the power away from people trying to use our relationship as blackmail. Your mother threatened to sabotage the deal if you brought me. Call her bluff. Show everyone that you make your own choices. It was bold and possibly reckless, but as Kang Min considered it, Victoria saw the strategic mind that built an empire start to work. It could actually work, he admitted. If we control the narrative, we control the perception. They spent the next hour strategizing together, Victoria offering perspectives he had not considered because she existed outside his usual world of business politics. She suggested they prepare a simple statement. Not defensive, not apologetic, just honest. He was seeing someone he cared about, and anyone who had a problem with it could address him directly. That night, Victoria did not go back to the staff quarters. She fell asleep in Kang Min's study while they worked on preparation for Boston, and when she woke up at 3 in the morning, she found a blanket draped over her and Kang Min asleep in the chair across from her, his laptop still open on his lap. She felt something shift in her chest. This was not some dramatic romance with a mafia boss. This was two complicated people figuring out how to fit into each other's lives despite everything working against them. She could do this. They could do this. Then her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Leave California or you will regret it. This is your only warning. Victoria's blood ran cold. She screenshotted the message and woke Kang Min immediately. The 72 hours just got a lot more complicated. Kang Min assigned personal security to Victoria within an hour of seeing the threatening text. A former Special Forces operative named James became her constant shadow, much to her discomfort. She was not used to someone following her everywhere, watching for threats she could not see. The text was traced to a burner phone purchased with cash, untraceable. Kang Min wanted to cancel the Boston trip. Victoria refused. This is exactly what they want, she argued the next morning over coffee. They want me scared and you distracted. If we give in to threats, we lose before the fight even starts. If something happens to you because of my world, I will never forgive myself, Kang Min countered. Then make sure nothing happens. You have resources and security and an entire organization. Use them. But do not sideline me like I am a liability instead of a partner. They argued about it for another hour before Kang Min finally, reluctantly agreed. But the security around the estate tripled. Victoria could not go anywhere without James nearby. 2 days before the Boston trip, Victoria woke up to find someone had been in her room. Nothing was stolen, but her belongings were subtly disturbed. A drawer left partially open. Her suitcase moved slightly from where she had left it, and on her pillow was a note written in neat handwriting. You do not belong in his world. Leave while you still can. This time, Victoria did not just show the note to Kang Min. She marched into his office where he was meeting with his executive team and interrupted without apology. Everyone out, she said firmly. I need to speak with Kang Min alone. The executives looked shocked at being dismissed by someone they still thought of as household staff, but something in Kang Min's expression made them leave without argument. Victoria threw the note on his desk. Someone got into my room last night, past all your increased security, past the cameras and the guards. Someone in your organization is working against you, and they are using me to get to you. Kang Min's expression went dark as he read the note. I am moving you to the main house immediately. No, what you are going to do is let me help you figure out who is behind this. I am not some damsel waiting to be rescued. I am someone who is now invested in this situation whether I like it or not, and I am smart enough to be useful if you stop treating me like I am made of glass. Victoria. Stop, she held up her hand. Every time something happens, your instinct is to protect me by pushing me away or locking me down. But I am already a target. The only question is whether I am a passive target or an active participant in my own safety. I choose active. Something shifted in how Kang Min looked at her. What are you suggesting? I am suggesting we lay a trap. Whoever is doing this wants me gone. Let's use that. We put out information that I am leaving, that I am packing and planning to fly back to Atlanta. We see who takes the bait and how they respond. Your security can monitor who accesses that information and track it back to the source. It was risky, it was potentially dangerous, but it was also smart, and Kang Min could not deny that. They spent the rest of the day setting up the operation. False flight information, staged conversations about Victoria leaving, carefully monitored information channels to see who leaked what to whom. Within 24 hours, they had their answer. The leak was coming from someone in Kang Min's inner circle, someone with access to security protocols and private schedules. The investigation narrowed down to 3 possibilities, and then through process of elimination, they found their culprit. Min Jun, Kang Min's head of security operations, someone he had trusted for 8 years, someone who had access to everything, including Victoria's room. The confrontation happened in Kang Min's private office, with only Victoria, Kang Min, and Min Jun present. Why? Kang Min asked simply, his voice devoid of emotion. Min Jun did not deny it. He looked tired, defeated. Dong Hyun approached me months ago. He offered me triple my salary to help him gather information on your activities, your relationships, your vulnerabilities. I said no at first. Then my daughter got sick. Leukemia. The experimental treatment is not covered by insurance. It costs more than I make in 5 years. The admission hung in the air. You could have come to me, Kang Min said quietly. I would have helped your daughter. You have been with me for 8 years. And made myself indebted to you forever. I have seen what happens to people who owe you favors, Kang Min. They never stop owing you. Min Jun looked at Victoria with something like regret. I am sorry you got caught in this. The threats were meant to scare you away, not hurt you. I would not have let anything actually happen to you. That does not make it okay, Victoria said firmly. You violated my privacy and safety because someone paid you. You made a choice. I made a choice to save my daughter's life. There were other choices available. You just did not want to ask for help. Kang Min had Min Jun removed from the property and turned over all evidence to his legal team. He also, Victoria learned later, paid for Min Jun's daughter's treatment in full and set up a trust for her ongoing care. Not because he forgave the betrayal, but because the daughter did not deserve to suffer for her father's choices. It was that action, that quiet compassion hidden beneath layers of hard decisions, that made Victoria fall completely in love with him. The night before they left for Boston, Victoria found Kang Min on the terrace overlooking the ocean, lost in thought. 2 betrayals in 1 week, she said softly, standing beside him. That has to hurt. I keep replaying every interaction, looking for signs I missed, wondering if I created an environment where people felt they could not come to me with problems. You did not create this. People made choices based on their own fears and motivations. You cannot control that. I spent 15 years building something I thought was solid, and it is falling apart because I let my guard down. Victoria turned to face him fully. Or maybe it is falling apart because it was built on fear and control instead of trust and honesty. Maybe this is an opportunity to rebuild something better. He looked at her like she had said something profound. How did you get so wise? I had a mother who taught me that the hardest moments show you what really matters. Right now, what matters is Boston. What matters is showing everyone that you make your own choices and you do not apologize for them. What matters is us figuring out if this thing between us is real or just adrenaline and proximity. It is real for me, Kang Min said without hesitation. I have never been more certain of anything. Then let's go to Boston and show them exactly how real it is. They flew out the next morning, united and ready for whatever came next. Boston in October was beautiful, the trees showing off their autumn colors as Kang Min and Victoria arrived at the exclusive harbor hotel overlooking the waterfront. The acquisition meeting was scheduled for the next day, giving them one evening to prepare. Kang Min's mother had flown in early and requested a private dinner. Victoria insisted on being there despite Kang Min's concerns. "She needs to see that I am not going anywhere," Victoria said firmly. "Running from her just confirms her belief that I am not strong enough for this world." The dinner was in a private room of an upscale steakhouse in the Seaport district. Han Seo arrived looking elegant and intimidating in a navy suit, her expression unreadable when she saw Victoria. "I asked to speak with my son alone," Han Seo said coolly. "And I asked Victoria to be here," Kang Min replied. "Anything you need to say to me, you can say in front of her." The tension was thick as they sat down. For the first 10 minutes, Han Seo made small talk about the weather and the hotel, pointedly ignoring Victoria's presence. Finally, Victoria had enough. "Mrs. Han, I understand you do not approve of my relationship with your son. I understand you see me as a threat to your family's reputation and business interests. But I am not leaving, and pretending I do not exist is not going to change that. So maybe we should actually talk about this like adults instead of playing passive-aggressive games." Kang Min looked shocked. Han Seo looked offended. Then, unexpectedly, she laughed. "You have nerve, I will give you that." Han Seo set down her wine glass. "Fine, let us talk directly. What do you want from my son?" "I want him to be happy. I want him to stop carrying the weight of your expectations and his father's mistakes. I want him to know that he is valued for who he is, not what he provides." Pretty words, but what do you bring to this relationship besides complications? Victoria did not flinch. "I bring honesty. I bring perspective from outside the bubble of wealth and power that distorts everything. I bring genuine care for someone who has been treated as a commodity his entire life. And yes, I bring complications, because real relationships are complicated. But I also bring loyalty and strength and a willingness to stand beside him even when people like you try to pay me to leave." Han Seo studied her for a long moment. "You really love him." "I really do. Even knowing what it will cost you. The scrutiny, the criticism, the constant judgment from people who think you are not good enough. Even knowing all of that." Something in Han Seo's expression shifted, just slightly. "My husband cheated on me with someone inappropriate. The scandal nearly destroyed everything we built. I have spent 20 years terrified that my children would make similar mistakes. I have controlled and manipulated and pushed because I thought I was protecting them. But maybe I was just teaching them that love is something to fear instead of something to cherish." It was the closest thing to an apology Victoria expected to get. The dinner continued with less hostility, though not exactly warmth. Han Seo asked Victoria about her family, her education, her plans for the future. She was assessing, always assessing, but at least she was acknowledging Victoria's existence. As they were leaving, Han Seo pulled Kang Min aside. Victoria could not hear what was said, but she saw the surprise on his face, followed by something that looked like relief. In the car back to the hotel, Kang Min explained. "She is not going to sabotage the Boston deal. She said if I am determined to be with you, she would rather support my choice than lose her son by fighting it." That is surprisingly mature of her. Do not mistake it for acceptance. She is hedging her bets. If this relationship works out, she can claim she supported it. If it fails, she can say she gave it a chance. "I will take calculated tolerance over active sabotage any day," Victoria said. The next morning was the acquisition meeting. It was held in a glass-walled conference room in a high-rise in downtown Boston's financial district, with a view of the harbor and the historic city stretching out below. Investors, board members, and key stakeholders filled the room, everyone dressed in expensive suits and carrying tablets loaded with financial projections. Victoria wore a simple but elegant navy dress that Kang Min had insisted on buying for her. She felt out of place among these power players, but she held her head high. Kang Min opened the meeting with a presentation on the acquisition, a strategic purchase of a sustainable technology company that aligned with his vision for diversifying the family business. The numbers were solid. The projections were conservative but promising. Everything was going smoothly. Then Dong Hyun walked into the room. The shock rippled through the attendees. He was supposed to be in Korea, disgraced and removed from the organization. Instead, he stood there in an expensive suit, carrying a folder, looking like he had every right to be there. "I apologize for the interruption," Dong Hyun said smoothly, "but there is information this board needs to hear before voting on this acquisition." Kang Min's expression went ice cold. "You are not authorized to be in this meeting. Security will escort you out." "I am here representing a coalition of concerned investors who have questions about your recent decision-making." Dong Hyun opened his folder. "Specifically, decisions that prioritize personal relationships over business strategy." He started presenting manufactured evidence, carefully edited conversations, and financial records taken out of context to suggest Kang Min had been misappropriating funds and making poor business choices because he was distracted by an inappropriate relationship. Victoria felt her face flush with anger, but Kang Min remained calm. "Everything you just presented is either falsified or deliberately misrepresented. Our legal team has already prepared defamation lawsuits, and financial audits will prove that every business decision I have made has been in the best interest of shareholders." "Then explain why you brought your maid to a critical business acquisition meeting," Dong Hyun challenged. "How is that in the best interest of the company?" Before Kang Min could respond, the conference room door opened and Jaiwoo walked in. The room went completely silent. Jaiwoo looked terrified, her hands shaking, but she walked to the front of the room with determination. Kang Min looked shocked. Victoria stood up instinctively, ready to support her if needed. "I am Kang Jaiwoo," she said, her voice quiet but steady. "I am Kang Min's sister. Most of you know I have not attended family business functions in 5 years due to personal health challenges. I am here today because I have something to say." She pulled out a folded piece of paper from her purse, her prepared speech. "My brother has sacrificed everything for this family. When our father's scandal broke, Kang Min was 23 years old. He could have walked away. He could have started his own life separate from the family business. Instead, he stepped up. He worked 20-hour days. He made strategic alliances. He rebuilt our reputation from nothing. And he did it while also taking care of me when I was at my lowest, when I could not even leave my room some days." Her voice grew stronger as she continued. "For 15 years, I have watched him put the family first. Always. He never complained. He never asked for recognition. He just did what needed to be done. And the one time he chooses something for himself, chooses someone who makes him genuinely happy, you all want to treat it like a scandal. Like he owes you an explanation for having a personal life." She looked directly at Dong Hyun. "You are jealous because he is a better leader than you ever could be. You are bitter because he succeeded where you failed. And you are pathetic for trying to destroy him because you cannot handle your own inadequacy." Then she turned to the board members. "Victoria is not a distraction. She is the reason my brother remembered how to be human. I have seen him smile more in the past few months than in the past 5 years. If you vote against this acquisition because you disapprove of his personal life, then you are letting prejudice override sound business judgment. And frankly, this family deserves better board members." Jaiwoo sat down, visibly shaking from the adrenaline and fear, but she had done it. She had stood up in front of dozens of powerful people and spoken her truth. Victoria was so proud she wanted to cry. Then she stood up herself, and every eye in the room turned to her. "I am Victoria Hayes. I am from Atlanta, Georgia. I have a bachelor's degree in business administration from community college. I worked as household staff for Kang Min because it paid well and I needed to support my family. But I am not here today as his maid. I am here as someone who cares about him and who understands better than most what it costs to constantly sacrifice your own happiness for everyone else's expectations." She looked around the room at all the judgment and curiosity. "Some of you are wondering what I bring to this relationship, what value I add. Here is what I add. I remind him that business success means nothing if you lose yourself in the process. I challenge him when he is wrong. I support him when he is right. And I love him for who he is, not what he can provide. If that makes me inappropriate, then your definition of appropriate is seriously flawed." The room was dead silent. Then, unexpectedly, one board member started clapping. Then another. Then more, until half the room was applauding, while the other half looked uncomfortable or disapproving. Hansio stood up from where she had been sitting quietly in the back of the room. Everyone went silent again, waiting for her response. "I call for a vote on the acquisition," she said firmly. "Based on financial merits, not personal drama, all in favor." The vote happened. It was close, but it passed. The acquisition was approved. Dong Hyun left the room in fury, his final attempt to sabotage Kangmin having failed spectacularly. After the meeting ended and people filed out, Kangmin pulled Jaiwoo into a tight hug. "You did not have to do that. I know how hard public speaking is for you." "You have protected me my whole life," Jaiwoo said, tears streaming down her face. "It was time I protected you for once." Victoria joined the hug, and for a moment, the three of them just stood there in that glass conference room overlooking Boston, a small family that chose each other despite everything. The victory in Boston felt good, but it was not the end of their problems. Over the next week, as they returned to Newport Beach, the fallout continued. Some board members resigned in protest of Kangmin's relationship with Victoria. Business partners in more conservative circles distanced themselves, but others stepped up, offering support and even admiration for how he handled the situation. The real shock came during the routine financial audit triggered by Dong Hyun's accusations. The auditors discovered something that had nothing to do with Kangmin's leadership. Dong Hyun had not just embezzled money to fund his takeover attempt. He had been systematically stealing from the family trust fund for 3 years, falsifying records and moving money through shell companies. The total amount was in the millions. Worse, the trust fund he had stolen from was specifically set up for Jaiwoo's long-term care and medical needs. When Kangmin found out, Victoria had never seen him so angry. Not explosive anger, but the cold, calculated fury of someone who had been betrayed in the deepest way possible. "He stole from Jaiwoo," Kangmin said, his voice hollow as he stared at the audit reports. "He knew that money was for her care. He knew she depended on it, and he stole it anyway." Victoria sat beside him in his study, her hand on his shoulder. "What are you going to do?" "I am going to make sure he faces every legal consequence available. Criminal charges for embezzlement, civil suits to recover the money, and I am going to personally ensure that every business contact he ever had knows exactly what he did." It was not about the money, Victoria realized. It was about the violation of trust. Dong Hyun was family, someone Kangmin had grown up with, someone he had trusted with sensitive information and important responsibilities. And he had used that trust to hurt the most vulnerable person in their family. The legal process moved quickly once the evidence was compiled. Dong Hyun was arrested in Seoul attempting to board a flight to Singapore. The money was frozen in various accounts. Recovery would take time, but most of it would eventually be returned to the trust fund. Through it all, Victoria stayed beside Kangmin. She sat through meetings with lawyers. She held him when the anger turned to grief over the loss of someone he considered family. She reminded him that betrayal said more about Dong Hyun's character than his own judgment. Hanseo surprised everyone by being supportive during this period. She even apologized to Victoria privately. "I judged you without knowing you," Hanseo admitted during a quiet moment at the estate. "I thought you were like the woman who destroyed my marriage, but you are nothing like her. You are loyal and strong, and you genuinely care for my son. I was wrong to try to pay you to leave." "I appreciate you saying that," Victoria replied carefully. "I am not asking you to forgive me. I am just acknowledging my mistake." Hanseo paused. "Kangmin has been alone for so long, carrying so much weight. I am glad he has someone to share it with now." It was not a warm acceptance, but it was genuine respect, and that felt like progress. 2 months after the Boston meeting, Victoria made a decision about her future. She had been thinking about it for weeks, and finally, she sat down with Kangmin to discuss it. "I want to go back to school," she said. "Finish my bachelor's degree properly, maybe get a master's in nonprofit management. I want to work in community outreach and philanthropy, helping families like mine who are struggling with medical debt and educational access. Kang Min listened, without interrupting. I also want to keep working, but not as household staff. Your family's foundation has a community outreach division. I would like to apply for a position there. A real position where I am hired based on my qualifications and ideas, not because I am dadding you. You know, people will say you only got the job because of our relationship, Kang Min pointed out. Let them say it. I will prove them wrong with my work. He smiled, and it was the genuine, unguarded smile that Jai-woo said she never used to see. When do you want to start? January. That gives me time to apply to graduate programs and prepare for the transition. Then we should make this official, Kang Min said, reaching into his desk drawer and pulling out a small box. Victoria's heart stopped. What are you doing? Something I should have done differently the first time. No midnight confessions to sleeping audiences. No dramatic public declarations. Just me asking you properly. He opened the box to reveal a simple but elegant ring. Victoria Hayes, you changed my entire world by being exactly who you are. You challenged me. You supported me. You loved me when I did not think I deserved it. Will you marry me? Victoria looked at the ring, at his hopeful expression, at the life they were building together despite all the obstacles. Yes, she said, tears streaming down her face. Yes, I will marry you. He slipped the ring on her finger and kissed her, and everything felt right in a way nothing had felt right in months. They decided to keep the engagement private for a while, just between them and their immediate family. Jai-woo cried happy tears when they told her. Han-si gave her blessing, though she immediately started making suggestions about wedding planning that Victoria gently deflected. Victoria's mother and brother flew out to Newport Beach to meet Kang Min for the first time. Tyler was suspicious and protective until he saw how Kang Min treated his sister, the respect and genuine love evident in every interaction. Her mother just held Victoria's hand and whispered, "He is good for you, baby. I can see it." Everything was falling into place. Then Victoria got a call from the hospital in Atlanta. Her mother had collapsed. Another stroke, more severe than the first. Victoria was on a plane within 2 hours, Kang Min beside her, and suddenly the life they were building felt fragile again, reminding her that happiness was never guaranteed and the people you love could be taken away in an instant. Victoria's mother survived the stroke, but recovery was long and difficult. Victoria spent 6 weeks in Atlanta, splitting time between the hospital, her mother's rehabilitation facility, and helping Tyler manage everything. Kang Min flew back and forth between Newport Beach and Atlanta, handling business remotely when he could and being present for Victoria when she needed him. It was during those difficult weeks that Victoria truly understood what partnership meant. Kang Min did not try to fix everything or throw money at problems. He just showed up. He sat with her in hospital waiting rooms. He brought Tyler food when the kid forgot to eat while studying and worrying about their mother. He held Victoria when she cried from exhaustion and fear. Her mother slowly regained speech and mobility, though she would need ongoing care. Victoria and Kang Min made the decision to move her to a specialized facility in California where Victoria could visit regularly. Tyler transferred to UCLA to be closer to his family, his tuition and housing fully covered by a scholarship from Kang Min's family foundation, awarded based on his academic merit and essay, not nepotism. By March, life had stabilized again. Victoria started her graduate program online while working part-time for the Foundation's Community Outreach Division. She was developing programs to help families manage medical debt and access educational resources, using her own experiences to design solutions that actually addressed real needs. Kang Min's business continued to thrive under his leadership. The board had restructured with new members who valued innovation and ethical practices over old-world traditionalism. Dong Hyun was serving a 5-year sentence for embezzlement, and the stolen money had been recovered and returned to Jai-woo's trust fund. Jai-woo was thriving too. She had started doing art therapy sessions that were helping her manage her anxiety, and she had even agreed to try gradual exposure to small social situations. She was not cured. Recovery was not linear and probably never would be complete, but she was healing. One evening in late March, Victoria fell asleep on the couch in the Newport Beach home she now shared with Kang Min, exhausted from coordinating a major fundraiser for medical debt relief. She had been working 16-hour days, and she crashed hard around 8 in the evening, still wearing her work clothes. She woke up slowly to find Kang Min sitting beside her, watching her with an expression so tender it made her heart ache. "How long have you been sitting there?" she asked, her voice sleepy. "About 20 minutes. I was debating whether to wake you or just let you sleep." Victoria sat up, stretching. "This feels familiar. Did not we start this whole relationship with you watching me sleep?" "Actually, we started this relationship with me confessing to your sleeping form like a coward who could not handle potential rejection." Victoria laughed. "You were not a coward, you were scared, which is different." Kang Min took her hand, his thumb tracing the engagement ring she wore. "I want to do it again, the confession, but properly this time, while you are awake and I am looking you in the eyes." "You already proposed. We are already engaged." "I know, but there are things I said that night that I want to say again, things I need you to hear while you are fully conscious." Victoria settled back against the couch, giving him her full attention. "Okay, I am listening." Kang Min took a breath, gathering his thoughts. "The night I confessed to you while you were sleeping, I told you that you changed my world. I meant it, but I do not think I fully understood how much you changed it until these past few months. You did not just make me happy, Victoria. You made me better. You showed me that leadership is not about control, it is about trust. You taught me that vulnerability is not weakness, it is honesty. You challenged me to be more than just the heir who rebuilt the family reputation. You made me want to be someone worthy of the love you give so freely." His voice was steady but emotional. "I told you that I fell in love with you when you helped Jaiwoo in the garden. That was true, but it was not the whole truth. I fell in love with you in 100 small moments, when you hummed while organizing my study, when you called me out for leaving coffee cups everywhere, when you talked about your family with such pride and love even while shouldering their financial burdens, when you stood up to my mother without apology, when you refused to be protected and demanded to be treated as a partner instead." Victoria felt tears building in her eyes. "I love you for your strength and your kindness. I love you for seeing me as human instead of a title or a bank account. I love you for choosing me every day even when it would be easier to walk away. And I promise to spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret that choice." He cupped her face gently. "That is what I wanted to say while looking into your eyes. No more confessions to sleeping audiences." Victoria was fully crying now, happy tears streaming down her face. "You know I was not actually asleep that whole time, right? I woke up maybe halfway through your original confession." Kang Min looked stunned. "What?" "I woke up when you said my name. I heard everything from the part about Jaiwoo's panic attack onward. I just did not know how to respond, so I kept my eyes closed and pretended to sleep. You let me believe you were unconscious. You were pouring your heart out. I was not going to interrupt that moment. It was beautiful and terrifying and honest, and I did not want to ruin it by suddenly sitting up and making it awkward." Kang Min started laughing, and Victoria joined him, and soon they were both laughing so hard they could barely breathe, the absurdity and beauty of their beginning overwhelming them both. When they finally calmed down, Kang Min pulled her close. "Do you regret any of it? The chaos, the drama, the scrutiny?" Victoria thought about everything they had been through. The threats and the betrayals and the public judgment. The difficult conversations and the family conflicts and the constant navigation of two very different worlds colliding. "The only thing I regret," she said honestly, "is not waking up sooner that first night. We wasted time being scared when we could have just been honest. We are being honest now. We are, and it is terrifying and wonderful and complicated and perfect." They sat together as the sun set over Newport Beach, the ocean visible through the floor-to-ceiling windows, the golden light flooding their home. Outside, the waves crashed against the shore in their eternal rhythm, constant and unchanging. Inside, Two people who had found each other against all odds sat together in comfortable silence, no longer afraid of vulnerability or honesty or the future. Kang Min had spent 15 years building walls and carrying burdens he thought he had to carry alone. Victoria had spent her life being strong for everyone else, never asking for help or admitting she needed support. Together, they learned that strength was not about independence. It was about choosing the right person to be interdependent with. 3 months later, they got married in a small ceremony overlooking the Pacific Ocean. Jaiwoo was the maid of honor, her speech making everyone cry. Tyler walked Victoria down the aisle because their mother was still recovering but watched via video call, crying happy tears. Hansi gave a toast welcoming Victoria to the family officially, and while it was not effusively warm, it was genuine. Victoria wore a simple white dress she had picked out herself, no designer pressure or image concerns. Kang Min wore a navy suit and could not stop smiling the entire day. When the officiant pronounced them married and Kang Min kissed his wife for the first time, Victoria thought about the long journey from that midnight confession to this moment. All the obstacles they had overcome, all the people who said it would not work, all the reasons it should have fallen apart. But they had chosen each other, again and again, through every challenge and conflict. And standing there with the ocean breeze and the sunset and the people they loved most surrounding them, Victoria knew with absolute certainty that she was exactly where she belonged. Kang Min whispered against her lips, "I love you, Mrs. Kang." "I love you too," Victoria whispered back, "and I am so glad I woke up." They laughed, and the moment was captured in photographs that would sit on their mantle for years to come, a reminder that the best love stories are not the ones without conflict. They are the ones where two people decide that what they have is worth fighting for, again and again, no matter what obstacles stand in their way.